Hey y'all, it's me, Kim. I am back for another patrons only video. How are you doing? I am great. Thank you so much for asking. First of all, I have to start out with a thank you so much for being patrons. So how do we get here? A few weeks ago, I watched this movie on Netflix called Something Great, and I loved it. First of all, it's a story about female friendship. You guys know that I stand friendship, and it was a story starring Gina Rodriguez. I don't have no beef. Y'all might have beef. I don't have no beef with Gina. And DeWanda Wise, who's just gorgeous, and Brittany Snow, who's just cute as a button. And I loved it. I loved the writing. I loved the story. It was a comedy, and it wasn't a romantic comedy. It was like a romantic comedy if the romance is friendship. You know, it was really about that. And I just loved it. And it reminded me, and I think one of the reasons why I loved it is not just because I love the dialogue, I love the premise, I love the chemistry, but it reminded me of a breakup that I had 3 years ago and how just completely destroyed I was by that breakup, but also like how ultimately wonderful and beneficial it was and how much I learned. And so while I was tweeting about that movie, I thought about making a video about it, but then I was just like, what am I going to say? Like, I just loved it. I loved everything about it, you know? I didn't have anything super smart or witty to say about it, so I didn't make a video. But I did think that maybe I could make a video about that breakup, how it happened, how I literally broke down and then how I built myself back up. Or I don't know. I don't think we do anything by ourselves, but I was able to recover and be better from it. And a couple people have asked for this, so I just thought I'd go ahead and put it on up here. And also, you know, I love the process of self-reflection. I love that. That's why I'm addicted to therapy. I probably share too much. I'm one of those Pisces. So let's get into it. So y'all know that I love to start from the beginning. So when I was a kid, like K through 12, I was never really interested in dating, not interested in boys. I was only interested in goals, you know? I was only interested in being the best, getting the best grades, winning all the trophies. Y'all know. Y'all saw the Harvard video. Y'all know. Okay. And so I had crushes, certainly. I definitely had crushes, but I also like had social anxiety, and I was just and I was also insecure. I was arrogant, but I was insecure, and I had social anxiety. And so like the dating stuff, and also I was a black girl in like these so many white social contexts, even though I did hang out with black people like at church and stuff. So the dating stuff just did not happen for me. So I didn't have a boyfriend until my senior year of high school, and like the end of senior year. It was like after I had achieved my goal, honestly, of getting into the college of my dreams. I was like, oh, okay, well now I can do what everybody else does. And that's why this new movie, Booksmart, which is a really cute movie, but I'm so tired of the white teen girl movies. I like them a lot. Like, I like Booksmart. I like Lady Bird. I like 8th Grade, but like, come on, we gotta get some black teen girl movies in there. Cause I like feel like I lived Booksmart. It was literally my life. But you know, there were only white girls in that movie. Anyways, we gotta move on. It was a cute movie. Go see it. But senior year, like last semester of senior year, I finally got a boyfriend, and like we were really serious, and it was fun. And it was like fun to, I don't know, it's like I really came into myself. It was just fun to go on dates and like somebody and get flowers. And I get it. I get the romance stuff. It was fun while I was doing it. Of course we broke up, and I knew we were going to break up when I went to college, because it's like, I'm on to greener pastures. Anyways, y'all saw the Harvard video. Y'all know how I felt about leaving Oklahoma. I was ready to go. And so then I went to college, and then like there was no dating at all in college. Like people dated, but now that I look back on it, like the male-female interactions it was not among the black people. It wasn't, you know how like some people say, I feel like maybe it's a cultural thing, maybe it's a racial thing, but like any idea of like you go to college to find your husband, it was not a thing. It just wasn't. So I didn't date anybody. I was in my mind, when I was a sophomore, in my mind, I was dating a senior. In my mind, we were dating. But like, then I learned that like he was dating like 4 other people, and it was a real John Tucker Must Die situation, whereas like somebody, DM'd me on Twitter. I was on Twitter back then. That was like 10 years ago. And like, so, did you know that so-and-so is talking to so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? Anyways, it was, it wasn't real. It was not a real relationship. So I was not dating. I didn't even really I didn't date in college, didn't hook up in college. Then everybody knows I failed out of college junior year and I started going to therapy. And when I started going to therapy, my therapist was like, do you date? What's going on? Why are you not? Because I just wasn't interested. I just was not interested. And my mom was trying to push me to do it. And my mom was always like, you gotta date. You have to date to know what you like and what you don't like. Because my mom got married really early. And so she was like, date around, like go out. And I was just like, no, like I don't want to do that. And then when I started going to therapy, my therapist was like, and she was really nice about it. And I just adore her. But she's like, so you have no desire? You don't want to do it at all? Like, what's going on? I was like, no, like, I don't want to do it. And so we worked through that. And at one point she was like, are you sure you're straight? Because I really was like, that part was shut down. I was not interested in dating. I was not interested in pursuing romantic relationships. But I will say, was not even really interested in pursuing like friendships. Like I just wanted to I was sad and I was depressed and I was just completely walled off from all human interaction outside of my immediate family. Then of course I went to therapy and we worked through it and she helped me, break down my walls. What is the line in Halo? The walls came tumbling down like Beyonce said in Halo, and helped me work through the problems that I had with intimacy and affection and my fears around that stuff. And then finally, a year and a half into my therapy journey, I started being a little bit more open. But the other thing was I was just bored. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the reasons why I understand jailbirds is because I realized that when I was the boredest I've ever been in my life and the most unhappy I've ever been in my life, that was when I finally decided, well, you know what? I might as well, everybody else is hooking up. So I might as well hook up to pass the time. That's what I did. And so I just started going out with people who like, girl, it was a mess. It was a mess. But it was never real relationships. Like, now that I look back on it, that hookup time when I was, 21, 22, it wasn't real. It was fake. And it wasn't love. So I had not at that point experienced love, And so and the other thing is so much, and I've always loved television. I've loved movies. And so much of the media that we ingest is hetero love propaganda. It's everywhere. So much of the messaging of movies, books, TV, plays is love will complete your life. You are nothing if you don't have a partner. You're nothing without romantic love. Romantic love is the center of the human experience. And so I never experienced that. And then as I got older, I was like, like maybe I'm missing out on something, like we listen to all these songs about love and floating on clouds and the room spins when I see you. And I never experienced that. So around 24, 25 was when I was like, maybe I should, I don't know, maybe I should focus on So I was on Twitter, like I often am, and I followed this woman. Her name is Sherelle Duck on Twitter. And she used to do this thing called like Twinder, which is basically like people tweeting, their pictures and descriptions of themselves. And like, it was supposed to be like hook up via Twitter. I'd already in my mind decided I want to know what love is. Like, what is this thing that everybody's talking about? I'm ready. And so I was following the Twinder. I would never do it. I'm too self-conscious to do that. But there was a man who tweeted his picture and she retweeted it. And then I retweeted it with like heart eye emojis, or maybe it was like the bug eye emojis, the bug eye emojis, creep eye. Creep buys is what I call it, okay? And so he followed me, we followed, and we started talking, and we went back and forth for weeks, and then, I don't even know. All I know is we went really fast. So we followed each other, then we DM'd each other, then we were texting each other, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I really like you, like, come hang out. And so I decided, first of all, I'm not inviting a man to where I live. You not coming to where I live, so you can murder me in my home? No thanks. So, so you can stalk me? No. So I flew out to where he lived. At the time, he lived in Sacramento. So I flew to Sacramento. I fly out to Sacramento, and this is so funny, remembering these memories. So first of all, I flew out, and I already knew that, like, he had the like, I do not date men with trash politics. You know, I have had that be a rule for the past 5 years. If we don't connect politically, if you care about gender roles, and if you transphobic and all that, we are not, you know. And so even finding an attractive man who dresses cute, who is not transphobic or homophobic and believes in the social justice causes I believe in, that's a good foundation. We are off to a great start, okay? So already in my mind, I was like, oh, this is great, and he's not ugly, and okay. So I flew out to Sacramento. We had a great time. I will say, you know, let me just tell y'all, if you sleep on a mattress on the floor, you gotta tell people before they show up. When I tell you and this is gonna sound classist, and I don't mean to be classist. I'm just saying, you know, I probably would have flown out anyways, but you can't just spring it on somebody that you sleep on a mattress on the floor, you know, like, so anyway. I mean, I slept on the mattress, you know, we had sex on the mattress, so I can't be too judgmental. So I was there, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days, a long time, probably too long. But we had a really good time, and we got to know each other. And by the end of that first visit, it was like, oh, we like each other, and like, let's be in a relationship. I mean, it was just so, and I honestly feel like this happened in a month. 6 weeks, really fast. We were just speeding through that shit. So I came back to Oklahoma, and we were talking all day, every day, sun up to sundown, you know? And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then, like, we fell in love. I have a question mark, because I'm like, was it love? In my mind, it was, but it was just so fast. We were definitely super infatuated with each other, and we talked all day, and we were planning the future. And then within, oh God, I want to say a couple of months, like really fast, he was saying how much that he didn't like where he was living. He didn't like his job. And he had a pretty good job, a decent job at that time. And he said, oh, I want to move. And so we talked about it, and we were making all these plans for the future. And he said, oh, I'm going to move to Dallas, because I was planning on, I'm from Dallas. My family lives in Dallas. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then we can be near each other. Looking back, I can say, you know, it's not a great thing that y'all really don't know each other, and y'all are planning to have this man move across the country to live near you. It wasn't. We were going too fast. I mean, we'd only like spent in physical presence, I don't know, maybe a total of maybe 2 weeks. And then this man is saying, oh, let me move to Dallas to be near you. That's not, it ain't right? But at the time I was like, oh, this is love, and we're in love. And sometimes when you know, you know. And a part of me still feels like when you know, you know. But another part of me feels like, girl, you gotta vet people, you know, do your research, look into the history. What's the chemistry like? We're talking all day, and I love you. And at one point we even planned, you know, a wedding, you know, our wedding date. And it's like, y'all don't even know each other. Now, this is me talking to Kimberly of 3 years ago. Like, Kim, you don't even know this man. You planning a wedding day? Okay, that's weird. But I did meet his family, and, you know, they were nice and regular people and sweet. And he met my family. Another thing is, like, we were not dating for a long time, and he came to this is maybe 3 months of dating, maybe 4 months. He came to visit me in Oklahoma. And this was also, we've fast forward a little bit, but this was also when things were a little bit rocky for us after like 3 or 4 months. And he came to visit me here, and we were having a family reunion type of cookout. And he came to the cookout, and we had a family picture, because we always have family pictures. Take pictures of your family. It's really important. Now that I'm, older, I'm like, we got to capture these memories. So anyways, that's your PSA for the day. Take pictures of the older people in particular. And so we had this family picture, and this man is standing next to me in the family picture. This man that I literally been dating for like maybe 4 months. You're in the like, it was just me I wasn't thinking right, because I was just so in love and intoxicated, and it's just so great. And I would tweet things like, oh, it's just so great to have a partner. It's just so great to know that you have somebody that you can move through life with. It's just so great. Everything in my life can be bad, but knowing that I have somebody in my corner makes everything okay. Like, that's the stupid shit I was tweeting at the time. And maybe it's real, like maybe those are real sentiments, but it was just stupid and corny. It's the corny shit that you do when you're in love. So he moves to Dallas after maybe 2.5 months, like really fast, you guys. I can't even, oh wait, how fast? It was like maybe after 3 months of texting, maybe he moved to Dallas. But that means that he had to plan the move like after. It was so fast. It was crazy. It was so fucking dumb. And this man's older than me too. So I kind of feel like somebody should have known. So he moved, and then immediately after he moved, we started having problems, because it's having a relationship via text message is different from actually being in somebody's physical space. And like, you're like, ooh, you're annoying, and I don't like you, and there's a weird smell, and what are you doing, and who are you, and why do you laugh like that? And I was having difficulty processing the difference between a text message relationship where if I'm done, I can just log off, I can just walk away, and like, being in this man's home and going to sleep next to him and waking up next to him. And it's different. And I had so little dating experience that I had no idea that it would be different. I mean, this was my first real relationship where like, we're both committed, okay? Like, I've definitely tried to date some people who were not dating me. But this was my first relationship at 26, 27, where we were both committed. We're here. Let's do it. And this is my man, we're introducing each other. It was a real adult relationship. And I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. I just thought, oh, it'll come naturally. And so I was really freaked out. And then I was also trying to figure out some personal stuff. And I just started to withdraw. I felt myself withdrawing, and I wasn't able to, and he was trying to get me to open up. What's the problem? What's wrong? And we had stopped having sex at that point because I was just so withdrawn, and I was just trying to figure out, why do I feel weird and something's not right? And I could not communicate to him what was happening. And that is completely on me. I 100% accept responsibility for shutting down, pushing him away, and then expecting him, as I was pushing him away, I expected him to be like, okay, well, this is just a phase. We'll work through it. Well, no. Again, because he don't know me well enough to do that. He didn't know me. So that is really typical of me. Now that I'm therapized, now that I've been in therapy long enough, I can recognize the signs of shutting down and I can avoid it. But back then that was very typical of me. He didn't know me well enough to know what was typical of me. We didn't know each other. And now we're in this situation where it's like, oh shit, like, do I have buyer's remorse? He has moved across the country to live here. And then I'm like, oh, this man moved across the country to live here. And so we're both, and so I'm withdrawing and he's trying to figure out, who is this girl? This ain't the fun girl that slept on the floor with me in Sacramento. It was just and so we just had tension. But again, my bad was just expecting him to just always be there. And a part of that was, and I'll admit it, a part of it was the initial dynamics of our relationship was I had the power. He pursued me. He wanted me. He moved across the country to be with me because he didn't want to see me date anyone else. And we even started dating because I was like, if you don't want to date me, if you don't want to be my boyfriend today, then I'm just going to go date other people, which is a manipulative thing to do. It's a borderline abusive thing to do. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Stupid Kim. Don't do that. So I felt like I have the upper hand, so I can do whatever I want to do, and he's just going to be around, and because I'm the catch here. And that's, now that I'm looking back on it, I'm not justifying that. Nobody's better than anybody. It's inappropriate to go into a relationship and be like, well, I'm the catch and I'm the one with the power and he's lucky to be with me. So he's just going to have to put up with anything. No. Right? That's not how you have built a happy, successful partnership. So I just assumed that I could just act out and do whatever I wanted and he would just be there. But it turns out, he wasn't just going to be there, plot twist. So there is a point after, maybe 5 months of dating where I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I expected him to always have 2 feet in. And then he took a foot out, and then he took another foot out. And then when I recognized, oh, this man's gonna leave, that's when I tried to start, being more communicative. And again, we had stopped having sex. So I was trying to, prove that I was into him by having sex with him. But the thing is, we weren't having sex because I wasn't really attracted to him. But I didn't, it's like I didn't realize that I wasn't really attracted. And it was just a mess, And so I was forcing myself to do sex stuff. And it was just like trying to keep him, because as much as we didn't know about each other, I did know that it feels really good to be loved. It feels really good to be partnered. There is something very reassuring and very calming about having somebody say, I love you for you. You're beautiful. You're perfect. What do you want to do today? How always having somebody there to hang out with and talk to and be vulnerable with, particularly for somebody like me who has spent so much time in my life feeling alone and misunderstood and alienated in my family and in my friendships until I got to college and all of that, to find somebody who I felt like, oh, he gets it. Even if we're not 100%, we're 75%, and that's good enough. I was trying to hold on to that, And one thing, when we were going through our stuff, one thing he said to me was, I don't want to be with somebody who isn't ecstatic every day to be with me. Every day should be a fuck yeah. And I thought, that's such a good thought, right? We shouldn't settle for, okay, well, this is fun, right? We should pursue in our romantic relationships, especially when it's new. When you ain't been dating a year, you should feel fuck yeah. Yeah, this is great. I love it. Everything about, and I didn't feel that. And I think he felt that for me, but I did not feel that for him. And then when I started to be an asshole, then he was like, oh, this is wrong. And then he started to retreat. As he was starting to retreat, I was like, oh no, he's leaving. What do you mean you're leaving? And that's when the downward spiral really started, because I started acting out and he was already gone, but I was doing everything I could to try to hold on and can I see you and come see me and let's hang out. And And it was just so ridiculous. And he at one point was like, okay, well, we just need to have an open relationship. So I'm going to date other people and you date whatever, but we can still hang out. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. But like, I was only dating other people to try to make him jealous, but he wasn't jealous because he was happy to be able to go out and date and see other people and see me at the same time. And that's not what I wanted. You know, I was consenting to that agreement because I thought, oh, well, I'll have half of you right now, but then you'll realize that you love me again, and then you'll stop dating all these other girls and want to come back and be with me. That's not what happened. That ain't what happened. What happened was, he was out here dating, doing whatever, and then I was trying to pretend to date, not really, but my dates, and put on this show and pretend like I was so happy with this new arrangement that we'd had, because we never had an official breakup. What we had after 5 or 6 months was, okay, well, let's just dial it back a little bit. And again, I'm partly responsible for that, because at one point I was just like, the level, we're at too high of a level. Maybe let's dial it down a bit. And I think one time I even said, oh, let's be intimate friends, which people, after I made that jailbirds video, people have been saying, oh, maybe you're aromantic, maybe you're asexual. And I've been looking it up. I'm not asexual, but maybe I am aromantic, because the intimate friends thing, I don't know. If you know what aromanticism is, we can talk about it. I'll probably make a video about it. But anyways, so our relationship we were barely hanging on by a thread. I was trying to, this is another thing I was trying to do, right? So when we entered the stage of because the breakup went in slow motion. It was like, dialing down. He was trying to hold on to me and hold on to every other, bitch in Dallas. Just kidding. I don't call women bitches. It's not appropriate. But when you're mad, you call women bitches. But anyways. He was trying to hold on to me and hold on, because it's not their fault, okay? And hold on to all these other girls in Dallas. And I was trying to hold on to him. And the instability and insecurity just triggered something so toxic in me. I've never experienced, it was almost like a mania. And I would try to text him all day and all night, because I thought, if I just keep him occupied all day and all night, then he won't have time to text other girls, If I am with him, all these days, then he won't have time to date or be on Tinder or whatever. But you know what I learned? People will make time. I thought, well, there's no way he could be talking to somebody else if we're texting from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. Oh no, he was finding a way, girl. And not only was he finding a way to text other girls and go on dates, he was finding a way, because he worked at an airline, he was finding a way to fly out to see them. Oh, girl. But I didn't really learn all this till the end, but he was finding a way. And on one hand, I don't blame him, because I did consent, kind of. I don't know. He had made it clear to me that he did not want to be in the kind of relationship that we started out being in. On the other hand, we just should have had a clean break. The back and forth was so childish, and it got toxic. And I was melting down and in text messages and texting him at all hours of the night. And he was like, girl, I have to work. And that is the most manic I've ever been, I think. Yeah. I cannot remember a time where I was off the deep end trying to explain to this man, we need to do this. We need to try it again. We need to be together. And I was trying to convince him, I was trying to present like a Supreme Court closing argument as to why we need to be a couple. And it's like, girl, he gone. Like, what are you doing? What's going on with you? And it's so strange to look back on it now because it was like an out-of-body experience. I was just like compulsively texting him and saying all these things and like word vomit and just spewing it out and calling, and it was nuts. And he was moved on, right? And so that whole summer was a wash because I basically spent from the middle of July to the end of summer, August, was just spent me melting down, trying to convince him, and, and he was fucking other girls and, doing whatever. And he was single, but I was still trying to be in a relationship with this man who was single. But we hadn't ever had like an official, we're done conversation. That had not happened. It was just like we're halfway done, which never again. Don't do that. Don't do that. He lived in Dallas, and I have lots of family in Dallas, and I'm there quite a bit, but I didn't live there. And so I thought what I would do toward the end was say, well, I'm not going to come hang out unless you say that we're together. Like, why would I go down there and just to have a conversation? Because he was like, okay, Kim, well, let's reset. Let's try to get to know each other more and go. And in my mind, because I am so afraid of abandonment now that I know this about myself now. I crave stability. My love language is quality time. I need for somebody to say, I'm blocking out this time in my life for you. It only belongs to you. I'm dedicating it to you because I have abandonment issues. And so I was melting down because of that. I couldn't think straight and process it straight. And what he was saying was actually very semi-reasonable. It was, okay, well, let's get to know each other. We move pretty fast. But I was like, no, I don't want to do this unless we are together. And I'm not wrong either, right? I wasn't wrong in that situation either. I get to say, I want to be a girlfriend. I'm not trying to be a jump off. I'm not trying to be one of these Tinder dates. I get to say that, right? But he also gets to say, I don't want that. And the problem is, like, I was not able to take no for an answer. So finally, by the end of the summer, he really pulls all the way back, and I say, oh, well, you know what? And this is like my last ditch effort. This is like, what's the holiday in September? It's not Memorial Day. It's Labor Day. Right before Labor Day. I said, oh, well, let me come down and we'll spend Labor Day together. And he said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And I was like, huh? And then he explains that he's dating somebody. And I was like, oh, because even though it wasn't complete. We were going back and forth still. We were still going back and forth. And so he was dating somebody, and I was like, huh. And then, I asked, like, how long has this been going on? And he gave me a date that was like from 6 weeks prior. And I was like, but 6 weeks prior, we were having sex. So anyways, the point being is that he was being messy. He was being messy. I'm not even afraid to say that now. He was being messy. He was out here knowing that I was trying to do what I was trying to do, sleeping with me, and sleeping with other people and flying out to see other people. And then, 6 weeks later, he was in a full blown relationship. And I will accept lots of responsibility for all sorts of stuff. I do not accept responsibility for that. It was bullshit. It was complete bullshit. But by that time, he was really prepared to cut me off because he wanted to be in a relationship with somebody else. And then I just, like, our last phone conversation was the most pathetic thing you've ever heard in your entire life. I remember so vividly just bawling, crying, begging this man, like, don't do it. Don't go see her. I'll come see you. Let's be together. This is right. I love you. Nobody's ever going to love you the way that I love you. What are you doing? Like, screaming, crying on the phone, bawling, and like, don't hang out. Like, it is so crazy to think about now because it was a scene from a movie. Like, I was the unhinged woman from a movie. And so now whenever I see that stuff, that's real life. Okay. Cause I was there. I was over the edge. And so we had that final conversation at the end of August, early September, when I really had to come to grips with the fact that our relationship was over, oh my God, when he was like, oh, don't call me anymore. That's when I really had to come to terms with the fact that, oh, this is really done. And so I was a mess. I was crying all day. I don't know if you've ever experienced what it means to cry from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. I've never experienced that kind of emotion. And my father died when I was 19. And so when I tell you that I cried everywhere, doing everything. I cried sitting on the couch. I cried cooking dinner. I cried in the shower. I cried in the bed. I remember very distinctly, I was trying to be on a health kick. And so going into Whole Foods, I remember picking out Skinny Pop popcorn, crying in the Skinny Pop popcorn aisle, crying everywhere. And it's just so embarrassing when it's weird to see people crying in public. And so people would look at you and you're crying and you're like, I'm okay. I wasn't okay. Girl, do you see me bawling in Whole Foods? Like, I'm not okay. I was crying everywhere. And that went on for 2 weeks, And so I really, now that I'm years beyond it, I can look back and think about, why was I crying? What was going on there, right? So a part of it was, I really believed in my heart that this man was my first love. Well, he was my first love. I've never felt affection that deeply before. And so letting go of that, I was having to mourn that loss, mourn the loss of person, even if it wasn't right, even if it was only 75% right, we were still really, really close. And for months and months and months, we talked all day, every day. And so losing that person, the person that you go to talk to everything with, that was hard. And then it feels good to be in a relationship, but it feels good to be able to say that you're in a relationship. And we were definitely at that point performing our love and performing our affections and posting on. So like I already said, I was posting that corny shit on Twitter and posting pictures on Instagram, and you feel good being able to say, oh, and look, I am not immune to patriarchal conditioning. It feels good to be able to say to the world, oh, this cute man chose me and we're together, and this is my man and this is my boyfriend. So then you have to deal with the shame kind of that. And then I was processing, this is why I was crying everywhere all day, sun up to sundown, crying. And then I was having to process the fear of, well, what comes next? Who am I now? What do I do now? Am I ever going to feel as deeply about somebody else as I feel for that man? And so I was it was a mess. And I'm so fortunate to be able to have a career where I get to set my own hours. And if I don't want to work one day, I don't have to work, because at that time, I can't even imagine what I would have done if I'd had to go to an office every day. I could not control it, you guys. It was like a faucet was turned on. It was nuts. So cry. And I was trying to process fear and sadness and shame and all of this stuff. But then finally, I don't know, maybe it took 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Finally, I was able to get through a day without crying. And thankfully, this is why I have such a deep affection for Beyonce's Lemonade, because Lemonade came out in April, and April was right around the time when he was moving to Dallas. And then by that fall, I just played Lemonade on repeat. And I also stan Solange, because that was the fall that A Seat at the Table came out. Oh, I used to play those albums on repeat. A Seat at the Table in particular was just it was so cleansing. And then I played the first half of Lemonade. Who the fuck do you think I is? Oh my, you guys, I wore that shit out. So that's why I will forever love Beyonce and love Solange, because they just really, really helped me. And also because the man that I was dating, his family, one of his family members is a top, I don't want to give too much information because I don't want y'all to find him, but one of his family members is a very high level person at Parkwood. And so like a big thing we were always working up to was, okay, in the fall, we're going to get the VIP tickets to go to the Formation World Tour. And like, that was going to be great. And one of the things that like really made me break down, you guys, was, oh my God, I'm like, so weird reliving this. But one thing that I really broke down over was he had this new girlfriend. And when I saw, and I didn't unfriend him on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm glad I didn't now. But when I saw him post the pictures of him and his new girlfriend in the VIP at the Formation World Tour, sitting right up next to the stage, when I tell y'all, I lost it, not rage. I wasn't feeling anger. I just collapsed in a pool of tears. It was just so hurtful because like for months and months and months, like that was the thing that we were going to do. And so when I saw that he took her and like with his family, oh my God. Okay. But I will say another cleansing experience I had was I took myself to go see Formation in Houston, like in October of that year. This was 2016, right? And it was just I got so much clarity from that experience. So we stan Beyonce. I don't stan Beyonce, but I feel deep affection for Beyonce forever because of that. So anyways, finally, I was able to get my senses back, get my faculties back together, reflect on that experience, reflect on the fact that I loved this man, but I didn't really know him. You know what I'm saying? I loved an outline of him. It was a sketch drawing of him. I didn't know. We talked all day, every day, but like, there's still only so much you can know about a person. We barely spent that much time in person with each other. Not a whole lot. Most of our relationship was over text messages. And so what I was really holding on to was a desire to not feel lonely, a desire to be connected. And so I had to go back and work through, after I knew he was gone for real, work through, a man cannot be your lifeboat, Because I was relying emotionally too much on this man. There was all of these wounds that I was trying to heal. This stuff from childhood, this stuff from the death of my father, this alienation and loneliness that I experienced all throughout adolescence. I was trying to heal that through my connection to this man. And that's why we were moving so fast. And that's why I was investing so much stuff in him and building him up in my mind like a false idol in my mind, But you cannot use people to work through you got to do your own work. I was trying to use that man to work through all this stuff, I thought that relationship was going to be healing and I needed to heal myself. Another thing that I discovered was Warsan Shire, this poet, actually the poet who wrote all the words for Lemonade. She has this poem where she says, you can't make a home out of a person, And I was I thought, you hear people a lot say, oh, he's my home. She's my home. She's my peace. And maybe that works for you. It didn't work for me. I need to be my own home. I need to build my own home. I need to be my own peace. And it's just completely unreasonable for me to think that this man that I really don't know that well was going to do all that stuff for me. I love Esther Perel. She is a psychiatrist. She talks a lot about relationships. And one of the things that she says all the time is, now we expect our intimate partners to give us what we used to get from whole villages, you know? So where before this new model of modern intimacy and marriage and courtship and dating, whatever, you know, we didn't look to our partner to be our everything. You know, now it's she's my everything. I would die for her and all of that. You looked to your partner to give you some stuff, but then you had a community, you know, and you went to the community to give your other stuff. But now, you know, in the way that our societies have evolved, I think a part of it is about like our ideas of like nuclear families, where it's like, this is a family and this is a family and this is a family and this is a family, and we all live in our little pods. Now it's like we cleave to each other, and it's like, it's just not, you just can't do that. It doesn't work. It's too much. You know, and I felt like, you know, a part of the reason why earlier on, before, you know, I really started to melt down in that relationship in a crazy way, I was withdrawing because I felt like, oh, this is a lot. This is a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, you know, like this man moved to be with me, you know, like hundreds of miles away from his family to be with me, because there's an expectation that like, I'm going to be his family, and it's going to be, and I just felt so much. And it's just not, you know, and I was younger and I had no experience, and I was younger and I didn't know myself and I didn't know him and I didn't know what love was. I had no idea what it means to be loved and be cared for and be caring. And so it's just completely unreasonable that in my first relationship ever, real, that I would be able to work through all that stuff. It just, you know, it took me 27 years to build up all that stuff. So when I finally came to terms with the fact that this was not going to be a thing, and I was playing Lemonade, the first half of Lemonade, not the reconciliation part. I was playing the first half of Lemonade every day and playing a seat at the table every day and trying to zen out. And I said, okay, what am I going to do? Because my mind, if I even took a second to stop to think about how sad I was and how hurt I was and how painful that whole thing was, I would just start crying. So I said, I need to occupy my time. I took like 2 weeks off and I wasn't doing anything but crying all day. But I said, I've got to get back to work. Number one, because I have to make money. But number two, because it is draining to cry all day. Have you ever just been crying for days on it? Like, you're tired and you haven't even done anything. And I was like, I just cannot live like this. Oh, and another reason why I was satisfied, I had introduced him to my family. I'd never done that with anybody ever before. And I was like, my nieces love you. And it was just like, and I was like, they're going to be so sad that you're not around anymore. And it's like, girl, those girls they don't even remember that man's name. I was trying to guilt him and be like, they're going to be so sad and they loved you and they were so attached. Girl, my nieces don't even know who, they wouldn't be able to pick that man out of a lineup now. Like, what are you saying, Cam? Anyways, it was just, you know, I was off the deep end. But in order to get my mind off of that stuff, I decided to go back to what I always do, which is work. And that was when I decided to start doing YouTube. So this would be 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And I decided I'm going to put everything into YouTube. And I'm good at this. I'm good at talking. I'm good at being on camera. So that's what I'm going to do. And I wasn't YouTube at the time. I was more putting my videos on Facebook. But I was like, I'm going to make videos. And my videos were starting to go viral. And I was getting like a following. And by that time, For Harriet built up, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of likes on Facebook. And I was like, yeah. So that's when I was like, okay, we're going to go full steam ahead doing this. I'll say a motivator for that was, I'm going to be more successful than him. I'm going to make sure that he cannot get away from me. He's going to see my tweets retweeted. He's going to see my videos shared. He's going to see this platform that I built being shared. He's not going to get away from Kimberly Nicole Foster, you know, because I'm just going to be everywhere. And so I really did put all of my efforts into being successful and being visible and doing great work. And, you know, that was not such a bad idea. You know, like, living well really is the best revenge. And there finally, you know, and for a while I was trying to do the let's be friends thing, you know, thinking that we would be friends and he would one day wake up and realize that he was still in love with me. No, it didn't work. It didn't work. And I realize now, like, don't try to be friends with your exes right after y'all break up, especially if it's a bad breakup. If somebody's trying to be friends with you right after a bad breakup, don't do it. That's a trap. And now I realize that separation was really good and necessary and important. I'm not mad at him, even though I do think that the way that he behaved at the end of our breakup was very shady. Shady as fuck. I'm not mad. I really don't hold any ill will toward him. Want him to be great. I mean, I want to be better. But I also see him pop up on my Instagram feed and I'm like, I don't want to be his friend. I don't need to be your friend. No, I think I'm real good on that. I think we've been there. We've done that. We're going our separate ways. We're leading our separate lives. I am great. But I'm really glad for that breakup because one, we weren't right for each other. We would have been forcing it. It wasn't right. It wasn't what I wanted. And like I said, that kind of toxic, I'm better than you mindset that I went into that relationship with, you cannot build a healthy partnership on that. So it was never going to work out. It was never going to be good. I am much more empathetic now that I've been through that level of heartbreak to other people when they are feeling emotional pain or emotional distress. Like, I get it. And I do feel like, and this is like I don't know, kind of maybe weird, but now when I watch movies and now when I listen to songs and they talk about the highs of love and then the lows of heartbreak, I get it, girl. Whereas before I was like, I wonder what that's like. Now I'm like, oh, I know. I've been there. I feel it. So I just think it really, I don't know, it gives my understanding of art and life, it just makes it a lot more fuller, multidimensional. My dad's death taught me that the only thing that you can't come back from is death. I completely believe that. It is possible to bounce back from everything. There's a point when your heart is broken when you're like, am I ever going to be happy again? Am I ever going to smile? Am I ever going to have a crush again? Am I ever going to like somebody as much as I like him? And like, you will. You will. I'm just not super interested in dating right now at this very moment, but I don't believe that I'm going to be in this space forever. I don't. And, I am open if I met somebody. I think I would be open to pursuing it. I think so. But I've definitely learned so much about me and what I need from partners and what I expect from partners and is it reasonable and is it valid and all of the baggage that I'm bringing to the table. And that helps me not only in my interactions with men, it helps me in my friendships. It has helped me sew up a lot of the trauma and the anger that I had toward my family. I think those traumatic events, as long as you have, thankfully I have access to great mental health care and I have a lot of time so I can think and read and contemplate and talk. But that was the springboard for like a new Kim. So I feel like I am much more emotionally evolved and like evolution is not just like a natural process of growing older. Lots of people get older and they don't evolve and they don't become better. But thankfully I was able to take that experience and turn it into a better Kim, a more centered Kim, a kinder Kim, a Kim who knows how to love and be loved. That's amazing. And despite the fact that I am not looking for a man at this very moment, like I'm not committed to the chase, Bumble is too much for me, Tinder is too much for me. I know how to treat people. I did not know how to treat him. Had no clue. Was winging it. But now I know. And I also know how I need to be treated. Cause all that going back and forth and we kind of are and we kind of aren't and I'm gonna date you and date 3 other people. We're not doing that. I'm certainly not doing that now. And now also I know the red flags, warning signs of a bad relationship because the relationship was going bad early. It was, right? But I just tried to bulldoze through it because now I see them as red flags. But at the time it was like, oh, like those are just mile markers. This is totally normal. No, it's not totally normal. Anyways, I said all that to say that if you're going through a breakup or experiencing any kind of heartbreak or trauma, trouble don't last always. The sun comes out again. You can't cry forever. At one point I thought, oh, I'm just gonna die crying. That's not how it works. You'll get through it. It gets better. I mean, I know for sure, you know, I've been through a couple of just really traumatic things, and like, I'm here and I'm really good. I'm really, really good. Like surprisingly good. Better than I thought I would be. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you for listening to my long ass story. Be sure to leave a comment, I guess, and we can talk about it. And I appreciate you guys. Bye.